Good day everyone, I am Tom Saward A. Tubal from BSED Mathematics 3A. Now, we will talk about pre-referral process and pre-referral strategies. Let us define first, what is pre-referral? Pre-referral intervention is to identify, develop, and implement alternative education strategies for students who have recognized problems in the classroom before the student is referred to special education. It means that pre-referral are in need particularly to students in primary schools in order to improve students' developmental delays. It is not advisable to refer quickly a student with developmental delays to special education, and that is where pre-referral is formed. To test first and to make ways to help students from their developmental delays, and if it is beyond and still can prevent by our pre-referral team, that is the time to refer a student into special education. The purpose of pre-referral process ensures modifications and accommodations for students who have difficulties in learning based on their disabilities and needs, and to create ways to help students in their education. A team of professionals known as pre-referral team is comprised of special education teachers, counselors, administrators, and psychologists who collaborate to determine reasons for the observed challenges. That's according to Halelan et al. Of 2014. They collaborate to find ways to meet the needs of children with developmental delays. According to Taylor of 2009, he provided an assessment model that begins with a pre-referral process. Children with noted developmental delays and difficulties are identified through observations and use of norm and criterion reference test. A norm reference test make comparisons between individuals like the SAT, IQ tests, and tests that are graded on a curve, while a criterion reference test measures a test taker's performance compared to a specific set of standards or criteria. Students who have additional needs may also be identified through community-based screening. Child development and social workers use developmental screening tools such as the Early Childhood Care and Development or ECCD checklist that covers items expected for a child's typical development. Pre-referral strategies are designed to provide immediate instructional and/or behavioral management support to a child. Using such strategies will lessen the number of cases referred for special education and makes efficient use of time and financial resources that could have been spent for special education assessment. That's according to Howard of 2013. This will also lessen the tendency of over-referrals to special education and wasting time as children wait to be tested rather than receive the instructional and behavioral support they need. Examples of pre-referral strategies are: number 1, observation of the child's behavior, including interactions with parents, teachers, and peers. Number 2, interview of parents and teachers to gather more information about the child. Number 3, review of school records. Number 4, analysis of the child's academic output through error analysis, portfolio assessment, and criterion reference and curriculum-based assessment. That's according to Taylor of 2009. Depending on the information gathered, corresponding changes can be made to manage the child's needs, such as modification of the classroom environment like seating arrangement, group change, and teachers' proximity in class, instructional support, and relevant classroom and behavior management, according to McLaughlin and Lewis of 2009. So I have here a figure which explains the pre-referral process and strategies. I have searched for a video clip which explains the illustration of our pre-referral process.
We have the initial identification, determination of teaching areas and strategies, implementation of teaching programs, and evaluation of teaching program. So, we will discuss first the first strategy. So, we have the initial identification. In the first stage in the pre-referral process, the initial identification is where the recognition of potential problems, parent or teacher observation, review of school records, classroom observation. So it begins when someone, a parent or member of school staff, start to have concerns about a student's academic behavioral performance. As might be expected, the pre-referral process is most often intuited by teachers' formal concern. Teachers should recognize problems of students. These kind of concerns are often precipitated by some of the following signs. We have falling grades, difficulty in comprehending text, and lack of motivation, and others. So, this is the initial identification, the first stage of the pre-referral process. So let's proceed to the second stage. We have the determination of teaching areas and strategies. Once all the relevant information has been collected, the next stage will be the determination of teaching areas and strategies. Small group instruction and direct instruction. In this stage, the team actually meets to begin its review of the information collected to date and to start discussing ideas and interventions including type and intensity that could help students. Along with the interventions, the pre-referral team may identify appropriate accommodations to address the specific needs of the student in the general education classroom. Such accommodation might entail recommendation for the classroom environment, classroom management system, instructional procedures, and task demands. So, that is the second stage of the pre-referral process. The third stage, we have the implementation of teaching programs. At this stage, the plan is implemented and the student progress is monitored. It is where addition in class or after school support, modification of classroom environment and behavior, modification of instruction to address potential needs. So, implementation and monitoring are often the responsibility of classroom teacher, though others on the team may serve as a support. So at this stage, data is collected during the stage and will be used to help the team determines the effectiveness of the intervention. Lastly, we have the last stage, the evaluation of teaching program. During the final stage, evaluation of teaching programs, the pre-referral team reconvenes to review the collected data to determine whether the student has made progress. At this time, the team decides whether the teacher needs to continue the intervention. If no, then the team determines whether the strategy should be continued or modified, whether a new strategy should be tried, or whether the student should be referred for special education. At this stage, the teacher will determine the effectiveness of programs on learning and behavior. So,
the video explains different steps or the illustration of our pre-referral process that a pre-referral team must follow in order to fully fully help our students with their developmental delays. Now, let me tell you a short story which provides a clear knowledge about pre-referral process, and it is entitled Carl's Pre-Referral Process. Miss Reyes, a third grade teacher, has always been baffled by one of her students named Carl. She has observed that Carl is very creative. He loves to draw and is quite good at it. He is fluent and conversant in English and can create such imaginative stories. She noted, however, that unlike his peers who can already read short stories for grade 3 and write paragraphs well, Carl is still struggling at the word level. Although he can create his own stories through oral narration, he can seem to write them down without having spelling errors. He gets very frustrated in such tasks that when he needs to answer essay questions in a test, he just scribbles a word or two and stops trying altogether. Miss Reyes, together with the other subject teachers and the guidance counselor, discussed Carl's behavior and performance in terms of his strengths, needs, and strategies that have been worked in the past. They have noted that giving him a list of high-frequency words and sight words has been helpful. They suggested to pair him up with a classmate who is an able reader to help him during writing tasks. They had a meeting with his parents and informed them that he will be given supplementary reading and writing practice worksheets to be answered at home to build automaticity in reading. And finally, he was recommended to join an after-school English remedial class to address his reading and spelling difficulties. Miss Reyes decided to refer Carl to the school's guidance team to determine reasons to account for his difficulties. The team advised Miss Reyes on what she needed to do in the pre-referral process. Miss Reyes collected his sample works across subject areas, reviewed his report cards from the previous grade levels, and had a sit-down meeting with the rest of his teachers. After reading the story about Carl, we have learned that Miss Reyes do the action in order to help Carl from his difficulties. We all know that even Carl has an ability to draw and oral narration. He still have this ability which Miss Reyes had observed to him. That's why Miss Reyes then approached a pre-referral team to help Carl. As teachers, we really need to observe the performance of our students so that we can help them with their weakness and disability and help them cope up with this problem. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you have learned something from my topic. See ya! Bye-bye!